All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling something called the CIA Triad. And no, before you get any wild ideas, we're not talking spies or anything like that, though it does have that kind of mysterious vibe, right? It's actually all about keeping your digital life secure, which is pretty essential these days, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
one of those fundamental concepts in cybersecurity. And you know what's funny? It's surprisingly simple to grasp, even if you're not a tech expert.
Okay, so less cloak and dagger, more like digital guardian angel then. We're actually breaking down a video by Professor Messer. He does a great job explaining this stuff. So let's get right to it. What exactly is this CIA triad? Lay it on us.
Well, it's a model for ensuring information security, a way of thinking about how to protect our data. And yep, you guessed it, it has nothing to do with the actual CIA. It stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Three core principles that work together to keep our digital lives safe and sound.
CIA, okay, got it. That's a pretty easy way to remember it. So let's break it down, starting with confidentiality. What does that even mean in the digital world?
Think of it this way. Confidentiality is all about keeping information secret and private. Like if you had a super secret diary that you kept under lock and key, that'd be confidential. Only you would have access to it, right?
Yeah, makes sense. But online, things aren't quite so tangible. How do we keep things confidential when we're sending emails, sharing files, or, doing all that online stuff?
Right. So in the digital realm, we have things like encryption to help us with that. It's basically like a secret code that only the sender and the receiver know. It scrambles your data, making it totally unreadable to anyone who doesn't have the key to decode it.
So like a digital decoder ring. I love that.
Exactly. And it's super important for things like online banking. Imagine if your account details were just floating around out there for anyone to see. Not a good scenario.
Definitely not. Okay, so encryption is like our digital lock and key. Are there other ways we ensure things stay confidential online?
Yeah, for sure. Think about access controls. It's kind of like how certain buildings have different levels of security clearance.
Like in those spy movies where you need a special ID card to get through certain doors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Online, this is how websites make sure only authorized users can access sensitive information.
So it's all about having multiple layers of protection.
Precisely. And then you've got things like multi-factor authentication.
I've definitely seen that before. It's when you have to enter a code from your phone or email after you put in your password,
You
right?
got it. It adds an extra layer of security to make sure it's really you who's trying to access the account.
It's like needing two keys to open a safe. Definitely more secure. Okay, so we've got confidentiality covered, lots of cool ways to keep things under wraps. But what about making sure the information hasn't been messed with? That seems like a whole other challenge.
You're right. That's where integrity comes in. It's about ensuring that the data hasn't been altered or corrupted during transmission or storage.
Hmm, I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Think of it this way. If you ordered a package online, you'd want to be sure it arrived exactly as it was sent, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't want someone tampering with it along the way.
Oh, I see. So integrity is about making sure the data stays intact, just like I'd want my package to arrive unopened and undamaged.
Exactly. In the digital world, we use things like hashing to ensure data integrity.
Hashing. Okay, now we're getting technical.
It's actually not that complicated.
Hmm.
Imagine taking a snapshot of your data that captures its unique fingerprint. That's what hashing does. It creates a special code based on the data. If even a single bit of the data changes, the hash value will be completely different. So it's a way to detect even the tiniest tampering.
Wow, so it's like a super sensitive alarm system for data. If someone tries to mess with it, the alarm goes off.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And then there are digital signatures.
Like signing for a package.
Exactly. It's a way of electronically verifying the sender's identity and proving that the data hasn't been tampered with.
So it's like a 2-for-1 security measure. It confirms who sent it and that it's the real deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we also use certificates to ensure integrity.
Certificates, like the ones you get for completing a course.
Kinda. But in this case, they're digital certificates that vouch for the authenticity of websites and individuals.
Like a digital ID card.
Exactly. Think about when you see that little padlock icon in your browser's address bar.
Oh, yeah, that means the website is secure, right?
Right. That padlock indicates a secure connection, and it's often backed by a certificate.
So certificates help us trust that we're dealing with the real deal and not some shady imposter.
Exactly. It's all about building trust in the digital world.
Okay, so we've got confidentiality and integrity covered, but there's still one piece of the puzzle missing: availability. What's that all about?
Availability is all about making sure that information and systems are accessible when you need them. Imagine if you needed to access your bank account online, but the entire system was down.
Oh man, that would be a nightmare, especially if I needed to pay a bill or transfer money urgently.
Exactly. That's a failure of availability.
So how do we prevent these systems from crashing or becoming unavailable at the worst possible time?
One way is through fault tolerance.
Fault tolerance sounds complicated.
It's actually a pretty simple concept. It's like having a backup generator for your house.
So if the power goes out, the backup kicks in and you're not left in the dark.
Exactly. In digital systems, this means having redundant servers and networks. So if one part fails, another can take over seamlessly.
It's like having a safety net for our digital lives.
That's a great way to put it. And just like your car needs regular maintenance to prevent breakdowns, digital systems require constant upkeep and updates to stay healthy and operational.
Okay, so it's not enough to just set up these systems. We need to keep them running smoothly, too.
Exactly. Availability is all about anticipating potential problems and having solutions in place before they cause major disruptions.
It sounds like a lot of work goes on behind the scenes to keep our digital world running smoothly.
It definitely does. And it's all thanks to those three principles of the CIA Triad.
Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. They're like the three pillars of a secure and reliable digital world.
Exactly. And they're all interconnected.
You can't really have one without the others, right?
That's right. They work together to create a secure ecosystem for our data and our online interactions.
Wow, this is really making me think about all the ways the CIA Triad is at work in my own life, from online shopping to social media to even just sending emails.
It's everywhere. And it's something we should all be aware of.
I think a lot of people take these things for granted.
I agree. But it's important to understand how these principles are protecting us and our information.
It's like we have this invisible force field shielding us from all sorts of digital dangers.
That's a great way to think about it.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork, exploring each element of the CIA Triad. But I'm really curious to hear how all of this plays out in real-world scenarios. What are some specific examples of the CIA Triad in action? And are there any situations where these principles might clash or get tricky? Stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of how the CIA Triad is applied in everyday situations. And we'll even challenge some assumptions about security in the digital age. You won't want to miss it. All right, welcome back. That CIA Triad really got me thinking, it's amazing how much goes on behind the scenes to keep us safe online.
I know, right? It's like a whole secret world operating just beneath the surface.
Totally. So we talked about confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the three pillars of the CIA Triad. But how does it actually work in practice? Like, can you walk me through a real-world example?
Sure. Let's say you're online and you decide to buy something.
Perfect example. Happens to me all the time.
So you're on the website, ready to enter your credit card information. That's when confidentiality kicks in. Your sensitive data gets encrypted, scrambled into an unreadable format as it travels across the internet.
Ah, so that's where encryption comes in. It's like a secret code protecting my info.
Exactly. And that ensures only the intended recipient, the website in this case, can decode it.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better knowing my credit card details aren't just floating around out there for anyone to grab. But what about making sure the website itself is legit? How do I know someone hasn't messed with the site or created a fake one to steal my info?
That's where those digital certificates come in. Remember we talked about those?
Yeah, kind of like digital ID cards for websites, right?
Exactly. They verify the website's authenticity, kind of like a background check.
So it's like double checking the store's ID before handing over my credit card.
Exactly. They're issued by trusted organizations, so you can be more confident that you're not dealing with a fraudulent site.
Okay, that's reassuring. So encryption protects my data in transit, and certificates help me trust the website itself. But what about making sure the website is actually up and running when I need it? No crashes or glitches right when I click Buy Now.
You're talking about availability, and it's super important, especially for e-commerce. Imagine if the site crashed right as you're about to complete your purchase. Super frustrating, right?
Ugh, yeah, that's happened to me before. Not fun.
To prevent that, these websites invest heavily in something called fault tolerance.
Fault tolerance, what's that?
It basically means having backup systems in place, so if one part of the system fails, another can take over seamlessly.
Ah, so it's like having multiple cash registers at a store. If one breaks down, there are others ready to go.
Precisely. And those software updates you get nagged about all the time. Those often include security patches and improvements that boost system stability, further ensuring availability.
So it's a constant behind-the-scenes effort to keep things running smoothly.
You got it. It's all about anticipating potential problems and having solutions in place before they cause major disruptions.
Wow, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. Encryption, certificates, fault tolerance, and they all work together to create this protective shield.
Exactly. And it's not just about online shopping. The CIA Triad applies to so many areas of our digital lives.
Like what?
Well, think about healthcare records, for example.
Yeah, those are super sensitive.
Exactly. Confidentiality ensures that only authorized medical professionals can access your records. Integrity guarantees the accuracy of those records, making sure they haven't been tampered with, and availability ensures that doctors and nurses can access them when they need them, which could be crucial in an emergency.
It's like a triple layer of protection for something so vital.
Exactly. And it goes beyond specific industries, too. These principles are relevant even on a personal level.
You mean like with our social media accounts and stuff?
Absolutely. Confidentiality settings let you control who sees your posts and information. Being mindful of what you share helps maintain the integrity of your online persona. And if you've ever been locked out of your account, you've experienced the importance of availability firsthand.
I never thought about it that way, but it makes sense.
It all comes back to those three core principles:
Yeah.
confidentiality, integrity, and availability.
The CIA Triad, it's more than just a techie term. It's really about safeguarding trust and ensuring reliability in our digital interactions.
You got it. And as technology keeps evolving, these principles become even more important.
This is so fascinating. I'm starting to see the CIA Triad everywhere now.
It really is woven into the fabric of our digital lives.
Okay, so we've explored what the CIA Triad is, how each element works, and how it applies in real-world situations. But as always, I'm left with even more questions now. Like, what are some of the challenges in maintaining the CIA Triad as technology advances? Are there ever situations where these principles might conflict with each other? And what can we as individuals do to better protect our own information and ensure our own digital security? We'll tackle those questions and more in the final part of our deep dive, so don't go anywhere.
Okay, we're back, and I'm still processing all this CIA Triad stuff. It's a lot to take in.
It really is a game changer once you start seeing it everywhere you go online.
Yeah, like you said, it's woven into the fabric of the digital world. So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember above all else?
I'd say the biggest thing is realizing that security is a journey, not a destination. The digital landscape is always changing, and so are the threats we face.
It's like a never-ending race, right? Got to stay one step ahead. Exactly. And that's where the CIA Triad comes in. It's a framework for thinking critically about security in any situation. It helps us make smart choices about protecting our information and navigating the online world safely.
It's like a roadmap for digital security, gives us the tools to make informed decisions.
That's a great way to put it.
So, no matter what crazy new tech comes out in the future, the CIA Triad will still be relevant.
Absolutely. Those core principles will always be essential, no matter how much technology evolves.
That's good to know. It's like a solid foundation we can build on. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners as they venture forth into the wilds of the internet?
Well, here's a question to ponder. As technology gets even more advanced with AI, the Internet of Things, and who knows what else is coming, how will we ensure confidentiality, integrity, and availability in this increasingly complex digital world?
Wow, that's a big one. It's like the stakes are getting higher all the time.
They are. And it's a challenge we need to be thinking about now.
So this conversation about the CIA Triad is just the beginning, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing discussion, and we all have a role to play in shaping a secure digital future.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you and our listeners.
And for anyone who wants to go even deeper down the rabbit hole, Professor Messer's YouTube channel is a fantastic resource. We'll definitely link to it in the show notes. Well, that's it for our deep dive into the CIA Triad. I hope you all learned something new and feel empowered to be more security conscious online.
Absolutely. It's all about taking those small steps to protect yourself and your information.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure, everyone. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.